replay. Should be a fun-filled weekend of Mania. I hope you guys had a great weekend. For those of you catching the replay that aren't here for the pre-market analysis, welcome to 4:30 a.m. And without further ado, let's get down to business here. So refresh this. Okay, so September is done, ladies and gentlemen. Here is my portfolio performance last month, 5.5%. S&P is down 4. Best performing TipRanks portfolios are down 5.5. Average TipRanks portfolio is down almost 6. So I managed to pull about 10% off of the SPY. Now that being said, the month prior, I was even. SPY was up 10%. SPY was up 6.5. Sorry. So it looks like this is going to be the ebb and flow for a little bit. Where I have a month where it's kind of even, and then my play kicks in, and then a month where I'm even, and then a play kicks in. Now headed into Q4, that pace should accelerate a little bit. We should see space take off this month. LPL, depending on when the Apple announcement is. What else do I have in my portfolio right now? ETM should start to move up. Side-eye, if it gets news, could go. Waiters not until November, but there's opportunity there as well. There's opportunity there as well. All right, let's head into the news. Hello, Hair. Good morning. How are you? I did have to laugh over the weekend because there was 2 articles that came out within 20 minutes of each other. One says president's vitals are very concerning, and the other one says the president is doing just fine. And so it was interesting for me to see just how manipulated the press can be, depending on which side of the aisle you're sitting. All right, let's see what we got. Oh, we want this up. We want this up. Talks of fiscal stimulus. I mean, it's 4:30 a.m. I think I'm about as well as could be imagined for 4:30 a.m. Yeah. Bad news for BMY. Lots of juicy news today so far. Okay, so here they are. 11:41 a.m. President Trump doing very well to the White House doctor. October at like 2:30. President's vitals are very concerning. What? All right. European stocks gain on optimism over U.S. fiscal stimulus. Morning, Timu. European shares rose on easing fears President Trump's health and hopes for one last economic stimulus before the election. I I think that Europe is a little bit nutty if they think that this is just going to get pushed through here. There are certain items that I think the Senate is going to prioritize over this bill going through, primarily being the Supreme Court justice for sure. Um, no, they were speaking specifically to COVID. I mean, I popped the article up. We'll get to it for sure, but um, yeah, no, Meadows was speaking in regards to his heart rate and breathing. So, like 3 hours earlier, the White House doctor comes out and says all the vitals are looking good, and then Meadows, whoever the hell he is, comes out 3 hours later and it's like, well, not really, you know. Um, so they reached out to Powell. Unfortunately, Powell is not so. Guys, when we are talking stimulus plans, the names that you want to see on a stimulus plan meeting are as follows: Mnuchin, Pelosi, McConnell. Those are the three names that you need to see on there. You need to see the head of the Treasury. You want to see the head of the House and the head of the Senate. That's what it's going to take to get a stimulus bill through. What we've got here is the head of the House, the head of the Treasury, and the head of the Fed. The Fed has nothing to do as far as the approval process, and so we're still facing the same problem that if the House comes to the Senate with any bill that is over $1 trillion, it will get voted down before the election. It will. Um, so right now, it's great that these three are having a little powwow. It's the wrong people in the room. Full lockdown again already? Wow, that was faster than I thought it would be. Um, France is looking to shut its bars, but not its restaurants. Okay, so this is bio news. We'll break that down after. England is drafting a 3-tier plan for harsher virus lockdown. Okay, so it looks like they're targeting social gatherings, non-professional sports, a curfew. That's a big one. But what's interesting is that they are church will continue to be allowed. So pubs, leisure businesses, hospitality businesses, no social contact outside your household in any setting, restrictions on overnight stays outside your home, and good morning, guys. But places of worship are going to be allowed. I don't know about that. So Sorrento, for those of you guys that don't know, is SRNE. They had a petri dish that showed that they completely cured COVID, and so they claimed that they had the cure for COVID, and now they're moving further with that. Um, so they've got 2 tests. This company has just gone all in on COVID. This is nuts. 2 tests: an antibody, a cocktail, a receptor decoy, a vaccine, and their cytokine storm, which is what they claim is the cure. Undercover raids. Yeah, I think that was expected. They're calling it the cure. They called it the cure because it completely eliminates it. So you give people their cytokine storm and it goes away. Like them or not, though, I don't believe the results. I don't believe the samples. It was a single non-peer reviewed report on this stock. Holy crap, it's $10. Okay, so this is what kills me about COVID, guys. Okay, because when COVID's done and you didn't get the pick, these stocks that have run like this they're obliterated off the face of the earth. This ran to almost $20. Okay, so I remember taking a look at this back at $1.85 in this range. Maybe not right at $1.85, but somewhere in this range, this $1 range. When they came out with the report, I kind of laughed it off, like, right. And it went up a little bit. Now, they have no FDA approvals, just to be clear. None. This thing ran to almost $20. Yes, they can, but they will have to go through an entirely different testing and approval process for it. So, ran to 1880 at its peak, and now it's sitting around $10. Okay, so this is a company. Ooh, Ethamita, thanks for the follow, man. Now this is a stock that currently has no FDA approval. The science around its COVID is still a little iffy. We're not quite there. They are showing that it's having some encouraging action, but it's not. We don't have full details on this, but it's not showing that it's. Animal models treated with a single dose of 500 micrograms started gaining weight within 48 hours compared to control animals that steadily lost weight after day 5. All 5 treated animals had undetectable viral load in the lungs. The company says STI has the potential to be utilized for both early and late therapeutics. Okay, so what they've done, animal models, so they're not talking about beautiful models, right? They're talking about animal DNA samples. Again, petri dishes are showing that after 5 days, no, animal models must be. They're saying gaining weight, then it's gotta be. I'd love to see the study, see if it's mice or apes. So typically, what the 2 things that you're going to see a study on would be mice or primates. They're 2 mammals that are roughly similar. Now, primates obviously being a little closer as far as a human makeup, so not exactly one for one at all, but at least a little bit closer. But the 500 micrograms is a large dose, but they're saying that it had undetectable viral loads. Now, again, this is not peer reviewed. They haven't put out the full study. FDA signed off on a phase 1 study. So, I mean, guys, this is a pipeline dream. We are headed into phase 3 on several studies, and unless you've got some real peer-reviewed analysis, for me, it's just you farting in the wind. It's just, it's not, there's no substance to what's happening here. But this thing's up at $15, and the reason why this kind of tilts me is, so here's a company that has nothing but hype, right? No products, and I know people are like, but what about Tesla? Tesla's nothing but hype. Not the same thing. Um, Tesla is clearly selling cars on a market, and they've got a whole infrastructure and everything. This is literally a nothing, and it's up at $10. Now in biopharma, I don't mind if a stock's at $10 if they have an approved drug. That makes sense. If you have one approved drug, you should be at least at $10. But my problem is, here's a stock like this with an FDA approved opioid that is being used by the Department of Defense, that is being used in hospital formularies, that's being used by dentists. It's $1.35. No name Sorrento, $10 ran to 18. I think, I don't know that ACRX should be up at the $10, but I do think a lot of these COVID things that have run they need to be gone. They need to disappear. Thanks so much, iFlux2. Appreciate that, man. Want to say, guys, last week was killer, absolutely killer on the stream. I will keep doing the early morning, the 4:30 a.m. pre-market analysis, as well as the 9 a.m. Well, the 9:30 a.m. market open. Yeah, we just shot up like crazy last week. 200 new followers, 29 subscriptions, just like crazy, crazy, crazy week last week. So pretty pumped. Excited to see how we continue to grow headed in here. But thank you to you guys. You guys are the ones that make this worthwhile. I love just doing this stuff anyway. I would be doing my due diligence anyway, but to have some people to hang out with and do that with, as well as you guys always show up and have some funny stocks for me to take a look at. Ooh, somebody who has never bought or sold stocks before in their life, but is very interested in it. So I actually started trading stocks in January. So it's not like, oh, I've been doing this forever and I'm a seasoned professional. I started back in January with about $3,000 Canadian. Okay. And I'm going to pull up my portfolio. Hopefully it does generate, and that way I can show that to you. But if it doesn't, I can. You guys can always go there to see what's currently in my portfolio. The results on that are not completely accurate, but oh, please don't do that. Hair is joking. That's not the rule. So yeah, back in January, I started with about 3 grand Canadian. That's not going to show my holdings. Hmm. How accurate is TipRanks? As far as my current portfolio value, right now it's about 29,000 US. ACB does make sense if Biden gets elected. That's true. That's my DD on that. That's my thoughts on that. That's not a set in stone fact. So I'm looking at about a 1,200% gain so far this year. In my first, I guess we're 10 months in now. My first 10 months. So here are the things that I have learned as far as what you're going to trade. The first one is understand the basics, okay? Don't try to get bogged down. There's a lot of people that want to get you into some very complicated things very quickly, okay? Now they want you to go into options. They want you to know your puts, your calls. They want you to be able to differentiate between that. Get that nonsense. Start super, super, super simple, okay? And yes, there are a lot of gains potentially to be made in options, but you can also be left holding a giant bag of nothing. So for me, options are something that you look to move into after you are successful in equity. Now, equity are stocks, and this is some of the terminology that you'll just pick up hanging on the community, being a part of streams like this, but also just opening up your portfolio and getting going. So for me, there's a lot of people that would recommend that you get started with paper trading. I'm not a huge fan of that strategy. What I am a huge fan of is get a couple $100, put it in an account, and actually start trading. And the reason for this is you make different decisions, right? Picture yourself playing a game online that's a casino game, right? So fake money poker, for example, right? Uh, what's one of the things that you're going to do as soon as you sit down at a table of fake money poker? Typically, it's you go all in. Like, oh, I think this looks good. I'm just going to go all in. Bam, you pull the trigger, away it goes. You don't really care what happens one way or the other because there's no real loss to you. And in the event that you lose all your fake dollars, you just make more fake dollars and then off you go again. This is the same thing when you're trading the market on paper money. Unfortunately, it is just not going to teach you some great habits to get started on. Whereas if you started with a couple $100 in the market, just $1, $2, $3, $4, $500, when you take the plays, you're gonna have that hesitancy of this is real money. This is real money I am using, and so your decision making process is influenced by that, and you're actually going to have a tested measure that you're going to learn to adjust to. Of okay, this is real money. I'm making real decisions. This is the real world, and having that in mind as you're trading the stock market is crucial. It's absolutely crucial, especially for the people that are just getting started. So that would be key. So what do we have so far? Keep it simple. Trade stocks. Don't trade options. Don't trade paper. And guys, full disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor. This is just my opinion. I'll put the disclaimer in there. This is just my opinion, but this is how I would, if somebody came to me asking, I really am looking to do this, a friend locally, and we're having a beer and they were asking what's up, how would I get started? This is what I would recommend. Okay. Now it's not a professional recommendation. I'm just a regular guy sitting in an office somewhere. Okay, so don't sweat that. I am not a professional trader. I don't trade forex. No, no, I don't trade money, and that's great because that's the last point that I was going to touch on as you get started here is so trade stocks, trade real money, and the last one is trade what you know. Okay. And by trade what you know, it would be like take a look at your life. Take a look at your jobs, take a look at what products you consume, take a look at your passions, your hobbies, okay? Break down what kinds of stocks you understand really well. Um, and when you start there, you're at least familiar with the business side of things, um, if not the stock market side of things. Okay. Um, and so what I mean by that is just hypothetically, let's say you're somebody that really enjoys sports, right? You're somebody that enjoys professional sports. Great. Then the gambling sector probably makes sense to you in many ways. Sports gambling, right? Sports betting. You understand kind of how that works. You understand how that plays in. You understand that when sports are booming, so sports gambling. That's it, right? Um, So what you got there are a bunch of different sectors actually. So Amazon, I would group in more with like consumer staples. So if you've worked at a Walmart or a Costco, Amazon's kind of more like that. As far as Apple goes, Apple is very much a tech sector. So if you've worked in the tech industry or you're very familiar with tech and how that works, things like Apple, Microsoft, those kind of go together, right? Uh, for Tesla's in the EV sector, so it's in the electric vehicle sector. Even though there can be argument made that it's something other than electric vehicles, I would make that argument. But let's say it is for that argument's sake. You've got companies like Tesla, Nikola, SPAC, Horonis. What's up? Tesla, Nikola, SPAC, Neo, uh, yeah, there's all kinds of these EV companies that are out there, electric vehicle companies. And so that's kind of like a grouping of stocks. McDonald's would be in the QSR restaurant service. So you'd be looking at McDonald's, Yum. You'd be looking at Yum C over in China. There's a bunch of those QSR, so quick service restaurants that are all in one chain. Then you've got full service restaurants like DRI, right? Um, so the reality is, I would challenge you to find the sector that you're most familiar with. Um, Blue chip stocks, I wouldn't say is a sector. I know that people like to group those together based off their value, but that's not a sector. Really dial into a sector that you know and study those stocks and take a play in them. Um, Take a play in them based off of news that's coming up, based off of exactly what we're doing here, where I wake up early before the market, I see the news that's going on, and I make decisions as to what's happening. Now, I before I got started in the market, guys, I had worked 10, 15 years, 10 years, um, in the digital marketing space. I've worked for companies in a variety of industries, from automotive to fashion to entertainment to technology to SaaS to uh, nutrition, you name it. I've worked in a wide variety of markets. And that allowed me to look at a whole bunch of different things. Now, biopharma, what I recognized when I was in the market in January is biopharmaceuticals is an area of the stock market that people stay away from in a huge way. And my ability to read and process information quickly could be of value with biopharma, because typically the reports that come out in the stock market are long-winded and extremely boring, and a lot of people don't like to read them. Add on top of that medical reports that are really long-winded and full of medicalese and hard to figure out. You put those two together, and not a lot of people want to trade this sector. But the sector has opportunity for massive gains very quickly if you understand what's being said. So, you get into some of those blue chip stocks that we're talking about, like Amazon, McDonald's, and Apple and Tesla. Now, Tesla has had a wild ride, but even now it's starting to taper off and kind of come to a point of reality. But what we're seeing is these blue chip stocks, right? These blue chip stocks don't make massive moves up and down that are going to make you a pile of money. They do move, but it's not these massive gains one way or the other. Whereas with biopharma, if you understand what's going on, you have the opportunity to sometimes go 10x, 50x, 100x, depending on the day and depending on what's going on, if you understand what is happening. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. For me, for biopharma, it's something that I learned. I saw the opportunity and I grew into that in the market. For you, I would recommend that you take a moment, pause, figure out what companies you think you understand, make a list of those, start tracking the news on those things, and then make a trade when you see an opportunity coming up. Um, this is how to get started. Okay. And that is, I think, enough for that. What's your opinion of Regeneron Pharmaceuticals? Regeneron, guys, is the cocktail that Trump is using for his treatment. Okay. President Trump briefly left Walter Reed to wave to well-wishers gathered outside on a drive-by, apparently disregarding federal safety guidelines. He's been hospitalized for 3 days for COVID-19, but apparently decided at the last minute to take a quick excursion before returning to the hospital. No bias in that at all. Apparently disregarding federal safety guidelines. Yikes. Lusitano, what's up? Although there is some initial confusion about the severity of the president's illness, his medical team says he's doing well, maybe discharged as early as today. He's received Gilead's antiviral remdesivir, dexamethasone, and Regeneron's antibody cocktail. So my thoughts on Regeneron, guys, is this is a after contraction. This is there to help your body fight off any potential secondary infections. Okay, that's what that's there for. Um, Now, he took remdesivir as an antiviral, so this is a treatment option for COVID. This is not a vaccine option. So for those that are like, oh, remdesivir is the vaccine, that's not how it works. Understand that each of these medicines is for a different purpose. Okay, so the remdesivir was taken for the COVID. Once you contracted it, um, this is the treatment for COVID, for moderate to not critical, but moderate to severe cases. So he was somewhere in that range, moderate to severe. He took remdesivir. Dexamethasone is a painkiller. That's all that is. That's for pain. If he was in pain, I imagine that they had him on a ventilator as well. So dexamethasone is something that they often they do give some form of painkiller to people that are on ventilators for whatever reason. So that's that. And then Regeneron's cocktail is to stop him from getting something else. Yeah. So dexamethasone can be, it's not specifically for patients that have been given oxygen, but it is one of the pain options that's available for anybody that's been on the ventilator. Now with Regeneron's is there. Its antibody cocktail is less about COVID and more about you not catching pneumonia or something else that could debilitate you inside the hospital. So that's why we're seeing this threefold approach. Now, if they're saying that he could be discharged today, and this is something I was talking about on Friday, that there was potential for this, that could be part of a quick boost for the market if they see that Trump is alive and well and doing fine. Now, I know originally the Democrats were like, "Hooah! Look what we did. We nobody here ever even caught this." Okay, that's true. Nobody there has caught this yet. Where things get very, very, very scary is what's up? Oh, it's Kevin. What's up, Kevin? Um, where things get scary is as we approach closer and closer to the election, the likelihood of contracting this thing is going to get worse with the second wave coming through. Now, with Biden traveling for his campaign, the odds are exponentially greater that at some point he does come in contact. And despite what the Democratic Party as well as the news is saying, just because they're wearing masks does not equate to them incapable of contracting this virus. Uh, Surface contact is still there. Despite what they may do on camera and for their press shots, Democrats are also shaking hands and touching shoulders and giving hugs, and they're doing that thing. They're not doing a phenomenal job social distancing like the highlight reels would dictate. We've seen that multiple times where cameras are running, they don't realize it, and they themselves are, talking and being real buddy buddy chummy chummy. I think Pierce Morgan and Biden was the last time where they did a some kind of a show or a question period, and they had everybody in the audience sitting in these little booths. So they were far apart and they were all social distance. And then as soon as they didn't think the cameras were running. Biden, well, during the talk, Pierce is over on one side of the stage, and then Biden's over on the other side of the stage. And as soon as they don't realize that the cameras are still on them, the two of them close the gap between 6 feet, and they start talking and shaking hands and whatever else. And it's like, okay, so understand that it's really part of the man behind the curtain giving you this idea that, oh, the Democrats are safe. Biden can't catch it because Democrats don't get this thing. That's not how this works. Right. Nancy Pelosi going to get a haircut when she thinks nobody's watching, right? There's all kinds of examples to both sides. I'm not saying that the Republicans are squeaky clean. They're not, but at least they're not trying to hide the fact that they're following all the rules. Um, Now, the reason why that's important is should we get closer and closer to the election and Biden contracts this thing, that's a huge deal. That's going to be a huge deal. And one of the things that makes that a huge deal is everybody lost their mind when Trump caught this because Trump is 74 years old, right? An old dude. He is in the crosshairs when it comes to COVID. Biden is almost 80. Biden is almost 80. If Biden contracts this, it is a very serious thing. Um, so this is something to watch for sure. I don't know that Biden would immediately be rushed to a presidential whatever like Trump was. I think he would have to go through a private medicine channel, and private medicine obviously is not going to be the same standard of care that the president receives. Um, yeah, yeah, that's one of the concerns here. Which in that case would leave Kamala Harris on the bill, and she would pick a vice president post election. I think we see Europe approve AstraZeneca before. Yeah, unfortunately, with US politics, a lot of it is about reading between the lines and understanding that what's being said isn't what's being said. Yeah, it's not a sure thing, but it is something to take note of, and it is something that could potentially happen, and I wouldn't want that to happen. Regardless of which side of the political spectrum I'm on, I would not wish this on anybody anywhere. But it is something that we have to be aware of as traders in the market that this could potentially happen. Um, yeah. Anyway, so my thoughts on Regeneron on it are it's an extremely expensive stock. Most people will not be able to trade equity on this with a single share being $560. Options is probably the only play you're going to see on this. Pre-market it is up because it is a cocktail being used. However, it's not going to run like crazy on this, guys. Now Gilead stock this morning is probably doing all right. It's probably up as well. Yeah, it's up 4% pre-market. So nowhere near the highs it used to be, up around 80 on the COVID hype, but it is there for sure. Um, so that's my thoughts on Regeneron, guys. I know that was a long-winded answer, but sometimes it helps to give that color commentary. You know what I mean? The heck is Regeneron's ticker? RG. No, it's just RGN. You know, REGN. Um, I have started, guys, putting in episodes over on YouTube when the replay's up, just in case you guys missed this. So understand that the timestamps are going to have the tickers that we discussed during these times there. So um, I didn't study digital marketing. I have no formalized education. I have a high school no, I don't even have a high school diploma. I didn't finish high school. I got to grade 11. I just went right into the market and started working, and then worked my way up, learning how to manage businesses and do systems analysis practically. And then I moved into marketing and worked it for 10 years. Some of the brands that I worked with were H&M internationally, so I worked with them in their social scanning in the US, Canada, UK, Switzerland, France, and Germany. And then I've worked with Toyota, I've worked with some Hollywood film, I've worked with Fox TV, I've worked with some individual stars. I just kind of built a career from that. So, um, uh, as far as did I also study branding? Yeah, I studied branding and marketing, but not in an institutional environment, not inside a post-secondary education, because I don't feel like that's relevant to the industry at all. I studied by actually getting out in the world and doing it. Are you still in space calls? Yes. Yeah. I'm in space until the day before the launch, which is the 23rd. Space is up again pre-market. We're up to 21. What strike? Okay, so for those that are new in chat and don't understand how options work, or you are new to trading and you understand how options work, there are some similarities to equity trading, so stock trading. With the stock, you would say, okay, well, I bought it at this price and I sold it at this price, and it's that simple, right? Like I bought the stock, I own the stock, I sold the stock. This is how much money I made or lost. In options, you've got puts and you've got calls. A put is a bet that the stock is going to go down to a certain price. A call is a bet that a stock is going to go up to a certain price. Okay. So you got your puts, you got your calls. Now, with each of those, there are more advanced plays, of course, with options. So let's keep it super simple to get started. Now, also with an option, what you're going to is a strike price and an expiry date is what you're going to need. When you buy an option, guys, you're not actually buying stock. You don't get to hold a stock like you would with equity. Instead, you make a bet, essentially. You say, my thoughts are that as of this date, the stock is going to go up or down to this price, and you put money on it. Now, if the way options were originally designed is, if the option does go to that price, you have the opportunity to buy or sell that stock at that price that you took the option at. So an example here is I have a 1750 call on space for October 30th. Okay. So 1750 call, I'm already in the money. So I was betting back when I took this in late September that space would go to 1750 by October 30th. Okay. And the options at the time were super cheap. I got them for an average price of about $1.68. Okay, so for about $1.68, I got these, and since then, the last price was they were worth about $400 a piece. Now they're down a little bit pre-market, but that'll adjust as the market opens up. My price target on it is probably closer to 25 or 30, depending on what we see happen heading into the launch. And then I'll get out. So right now I'm positive about $700 on this play. I think that there's still opportunity for this to run quite a bit. The other ones that I am holding still are ACRX for December. These are still profitable. ETM for December up to $4, and AstraZeneca towards 85, just because I think AstraZeneca is actually going to be the first to market with their vaccine. So, but right now, the closest one coming up is actually these MFA calls. I don't know that these actually do anything as far as making it. I mean, I've got a week, 2 weeks here for this to go to 6. I don't think MFA is going to move. I bought these back in January. It just didn't recover nearly as quickly as I thought it would. So that is what it is. These are going to expire. That's not a problem. But unlike stocks, guys, this is gone. This is just gone. It gone. MFA is an MREIT. So they're a real estate holding company. I expected to see a quicker recovery in that sector. It just didn't happen, and that's fine. But space is going to pay out quite nicely. It looks like I should triple up, if not more. If I could go 10x on that, that would be fantastic. But we'll see what we shall see, right? Okay, so go here. I want to do this, this. All right, guys, it's that time. I am going to shoot this out. Huge thank you to Restream for sponsoring the channel. It lets me talk with all you guys over on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, as well as all you fine folks here on Twitch all at the same time. Enjoy this. I will be right back. Going to fill up my water, and I will see you guys in a bit. All right, and we're back at it. Okay, so let's take this down. Let's head back here. So yeah, space guys. Apparently there were 8 SPACs that went public on Friday. That's crazy. Okay, so before I read this article from Newsweek, guys, I want to qualify it with something right away. Okay, and this is what we call bad science. Um, he's incapacitated. Stanford professor questions Trump's ability to lead well on dexamethasone, recalls own experience. Okay, this right here. This is SPAC. We will definitely touch on SPAC here, guys. I'll break it down. That's an EV sector play. So, recalls own experience. This is saying a potential reaction to dexamethasone can be one where you are groggy, you're not quite clear, there's nausea, etc., etc. You're not able to make clear-headed decisions. That is possible. It is a possible reaction. When I say possible, I don't mean everybody experiences that. Now, this Stanford professor is recalling his own experience and projecting that. This guy's saying, when I was on it, I couldn't do anything. I was completely screwed. Sorry, she is saying that. The way that this works, guys, is she is making the assumption that the standard of care that she received in her hospital when she got her brain surgery is the same standard of care that the President of the United States of America is receiving. And I can 100% say that ain't true. This lady from Stanford is in no way receiving the same standard of medical care that the President of the United States is currently receiving. You better believe that they have a tighter control on dosage. They also have people watching and monitoring 24/7 around the clock. There are people that are ensuring that he is not groggy, doped up, etc., etc., etc. So, the reality is this: it is extremely negligent for this professor from Stanford to throw this out there based on personal experience and conjecture. You don't have any idea what level of dosage he's receiving dexamethasone on. There are lots of people that have no negative reaction to dexamethasone. This lady here had a negative reaction, and I feel terrible for her about that. But the reality is, she's talking out her butt. She's got no clue what she's rambling on about there. I guarantee you that the standard of care the president receiving is sufficient that he should be able to continue authorized uh, office. He should have the authority of his office. In no way is it going to make him irrational on his decision making process. So I appreciate her insights, but I'm going to take the chief medical officer to Trump before I have some lady from Stanford who has no insights into what's actually going on. Let me know what she thinks should be happening. I'm sure she's not a card carrying Democrat as well, being a professor at Stanford. SPAC. Okay, guys. So it doesn't matter what Spartan Energy Acquisition Corp is. That's a nothing. It actually is a SPAC. It's an SPAC, which is a special purpose acquisition. Now, what they've acquired it, or what is acquiring them, I should say, is Fisker. And Fisker is an up-and-coming EV company in the States with a fairly famous car engineer that has built an electric vehicle. The hype around this is that it will probably head somewhere towards the $25 mark on its SPAC day. We'll wait and see what that does. You could buy equity in it right now. I don't believe that there are options available right now. I could be wrong on that. Um, so again, guys, not my forte, not my sector. Um, it does appear as though there are options available. So let's show you what I see. So down here, guys, is the options chain. November 20th, current price about $300 for the 15s. I think I would be more inclined to actually go for the 380 on the 1250s. And then when this goes to $20, I just sell at whatever the outrageous price it is. I'm an Android user. I am. I have always been. Um, when we're talking specifically about mobile products, I'm an Android user. Um, I like the UI. I like that it integrates with my PC. So as far as my PC goes, I've always been PC. I use an Aurora R8 Alienware desktop to do all of my fun stuff. Yeah, I'm a PC Android guy for sure. Um, I like to get performance for what I pay for, not a logo. Um, have you missed any major news points? We covered SRNE, we covered how to get started in the market, and we covered Trump's health and the use of dexamethasone, Regeneron, and Gilead's remdesivir. Um, this is trending. We have our daily tirade that Trump should not be in office and we should enact the 25th Amendment. All right, so here we are. The tirade of the day is the 25th Amendment argument being made again. This time it's because he's incapacitated due to COVID. What's funny is they want to. they want to remove him from the presidential office on the basis of he's taking dexamethasone or he has COVID. Okay, so the issue with that is uh, the Democrats think that in some way that puts them in better position to getting things done that they want to get done. But the reality is, Pence would then take it up. The next in line is not Pelosi, which the press has wrongly, in many ways, been insinuating that Pelosi would take the reins of power, and that is not the case. Mike Pence immediately steps in and would continue to do the exact same things that Trump has been doing. And as far as using the 25th Amendment goes, in case of the removal of the president from office or of his death or resignation, the said office shall devolve on the vice president in case of the inability of the president to discharge the power and duties of the said office. That said powers and duties shall devolve on the vice president until the inability be removed. The Congress may, by law, provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the president and vice president, declaring what officer shall then be president, or in case of inability, act as president, such officer shall be or act as president accordingly until president shall be elected. In case of inability, until the inability shall be earlier removed. The commencement and termination of any inability shall be determined by such method as Congress shall by law provide. Okay. Good morning, Omar. So the reason why the Democrats would want the 25th Amendment enacted is because then it becomes Congress's ability to approve or disapprove his reinstatement, which means that you would have to get a vote from the House putting him back into office, and you would not get that. It would not happen. They would make a point of not putting him back into office until after the election. Um, yeah, yeah. So, and I mean, yeah, the country would go nuts. If they removed him from power using the 25th Amendment, um, yeah, I think we see Trump discharged today. I'm gonna be honest. I think we see Trump discharged today. I think we see him before the market closes back in the White House. I think it's gonna be a green day. Um, why would he be discharged from the hospital? Largely political reasons. No, there are 74-year-olds that were asymptomatic that went through COVID and you never even saw them get sick. So they probably had the fastest recovery. Um, just because he gets discharged back to the White House, though, doesn't mean that he's fit as a fiddle, right? Understand that it's going to be a bit of a show. All right. China's pursuing high-risk strategy to speed COVID to markets. So, because it's happening behind closed walls, closed borders, and closed communication, we aren't actually sure what China's doing. All we know is that they're injecting hundreds of thousands of people with vaccines. That is possible. That is entirely possible that he's going back to the White House just to give the market confidence. I, there were some other. Well, he just got COVID, or he's faking COVID, or he gave himself COVID just for a political stunt. I don't buy that. There's actual trace contact. There are other people that are sick with this thing right now. This was not some huge strategic plan. Um, what it does, though, is it does present opportunity, and he, as a businessman, recognizes that. So, for him to go to the hospital and then come back triumphant in record time goes, it's a nasty disease, but we can beat it. We can get over it. Um, yeah, and I understand those that are saying that he's not really infected. Unfortunately, those that are showing the trace contact that he contracted it from are positive, and the other people that he's come in contact with at the same event are also positive. So I appreciate the left not really having their story straight of, oh well, he doesn't have it, he's faking it. Oh, he does have it, he should be pulled from office on the 25th Amendment. Oh, he's just faking taking all these medications. Oh, but we should take him out of office because dexamethasone is going to make him crazy. Pick one. Pick a narrative. Pick a narrative. He's either sick or he's not. He's either doped up or he's not. Either way, you got to make up your mind, because when you are this flip flopping nonsense, people start to lose. Well, most people aren't paying attention at this point anyway. They just want the election to be over so they can get on living their lives. With China, guys, this is scary because one of the things that has been suggested is that China is actually mandating the use of this vaccine in poor, underprivileged classes or minorities. So the Uyghur population is one that's been hinted at as being tested with these vaccines, whether they've contracted it or not through natural means, which is kind of crazy to think about. Moving on from that, we are going to take a look at ORCL. Good old Oracle. What was once old, irrelevant, and dying out is now hip and cool. The deal lands a flashy new customer for its lagging cloud computing business and victory over a longtime rival, Microsoft. Um, it looks like it might be over $7 billion they're paying for TikTok. Yeah. Um, well, hopefully you retire soon, man, because if TikTok is their lifeline, and they need this to survive, things are not good. Now Microsoft got shut down because Microsoft wanted access to the software that TikTok uses to recommend videos, giving them some insight into Chinese technology, and the Chinese government said no go. Microsoft is not allowed to have that. You may not have that information. Pelosi made the announcement she sees a deal coming, guys. I would not hold my breath until we see the particulars of that deal. Mm-mm. Yeah, yeah, I would agree. Um, so New York City will close schools, non-essential businesses on Wednesday with 9 zip codes. Indoor and outdoor dining will all be closed. Oli oopie, oli oop. 3. Do I do Forex? No, I don't trade cash. And I don't trade cash because there are too many factors on it. I trade equity primarily. I do have a small options holding, but I do trade uh, equity primarily, and I'm trading equity as a swing trader, less of a day trader. So on shortest, I think the shortest I play right now that I have is into the end of October. The longest out play that I have is into Q1 of next year. Um, So yeah, New York is shutting down. Houses of worship will remain open with restrictions. So churches are going to stay open, but indoor and outdoor dining are going to be closed. So this is good news for companies like Uber, Waiter, DoorDash, Grubhub. Um, Neighborhoods that have had a positivity rate of more than 3% for at least 7 straight days under the watch. What do I think of Blink? I think Blink is in the EV sector. I think the EV sector is running on hype right now to a large extent. I expect to see a large amount of those EV stocks come back down to earth post election, especially if Biden doesn't get through. Now, in the event that Biden does get through, if Biden does win the election, then stocks like Blink are going to do quite well as the new Green Deal, whether Biden says he supports it or not, the new Green Deal that the Democrats will eventually push through will be in favor of these eco stocks. So EV, anything green energy. So Blink should do well. My as a Canadian, guys, I don't have a personal interest in how the election turns out. Now, I do have a cursory interest for entertainment purposes, and I do think Trump's going to win it. Um, so I'm not betting too hard on things like Blink or Neo or Tesla in regards to that. Anything that's requiring that green energy push, I am more inclined to look at something like ET that's based in the Supreme Court nomination and a Republican president letting the oil pipelines flow through. De Blasio is saying that we can stop this from being a second wave. You cannot stop a second wave. This is wrong. There will be a second wave. You cannot stop it. You can prepare for it, but this kind of thinking from the mayor is extremely scary, especially in a massive population like New York. Being telling people that you can stop the second wave, it's here. You can't stop it. Closures may last from 2 to 4 weeks. Plan requires state approval, which of course Don Cuomo is going to give them. Okay, so Cuomo is going to approve this, saying, "Look, we're doing the right thing. Trump's doing the wrong thing." What Cuomo doesn't realize is the massive outbreak that's happened across the U.S. Has 70% of it has been tied to New York City. And he continues to blame Trump for New York City and New York State, that Trump didn't close flights and borders sooner, and that's on him. The reality is that regardless of flights in and out of New York City, um, the state itself has not managed this well from go. They did not use hospital facilities that were provided to them by the federal government accurately and adequately. They did put more people at risk by putting um, compromised seniors into retirement homes and villages, largely spiking the mortality rate in New York State. They have made it the epicenter of the disease globally. Um, and they have made sure to align themselves as much as possible with the Democratic Party. Now, let me ask you, if you're in New York City and you go back into lockdown because of the poor mismanagement of a Democrat governor and mayor, what are your thoughts when you go to the election? Especially if Trump is able to get the vaccine out. Trump gets you the vaccine, but Cuomo and de Blasio are incapable of managing anything. If you don't think that that's going to influence some votes, especially in New York City where Trump is well known, I don't know what will. Uh, but that's that. That's New York Phase 2 on the way, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be interesting to watch. One of the cool tools that you should be checking out is the John Hopkins tracker. Um, the Microsoft Grease deal. Weird, it just closed. So Microsoft's come in saying it's a reflection of their confidence in the Greek economy, Greek people, and Greek government. That's bullshit. The reason why Microsoft is investing $1 billion there is because it's dirt cheap. Everything is dirt cheap. Um, yeah, it is bottom of the barrel for the cost of where you could build it in a third world country. That's essentially what we're looking at with Greece. So here's a cool tool, guys. Johns Hopkins. Now, right now it's broken down by country, but you can go to the U.S. Specifically. Where is it? Where's their state by state map? U.S. map. So here's the U.S. map, guys. This is what we're looking at as far as deaths and confirmed cases. So Los Angeles is leading, followed by Miami-Dade, followed by Cook County, Harris County, Maricopa, Dallas, Broward, Queens. Take note of this, guys. This is currently where the massive outbreak was, or is. But if we go to, do they have a, they don't have a time thing on this, huh? Data in motion? Maybe it's in here. No. No, it's not in here. Is that per 1 million people? No, this is total. This is total confirmed cases by county. No, I think that we actually see the market increase heading into election. I think that we see a vaccine announced by the end of October, whether that's AstraZeneca over in Europe or whether that's the FDA approving something here. I think we do see a vaccine pre-election, which will cause the market to spike. This is total cases, confirmed cases so far. So you'll see that over on the right here, we have total US cases up to about 7.5 million. So what they pair it with as well is they pair it with the deaths. Why do you think a vaccine will be announced? I think a vaccine will be announced because the EU is already looking at lockdown again. Oxford AstraZeneca is a UK based study. They have moved to a rolling review on the study as opposed to awaiting phase 3 trial data. I think Boris Johnson is pushing real hard for them to say, yeah, go ahead and start administering this vaccine as soon as possible to stop a severe second wave, and also so that he can get back to focusing on Brexit instead of COVID. I think there's a huge likelihood that we see AstraZeneca hit the market first. Now, that being said, the US never loves to be second. AstraZeneca is not one of those Russia China drugs that's kind of just being thrown out there all of a sudden. AstraZeneca is a I think AstraZeneca is a validated company. People know that they know what they're doing. It doesn't look like it's crazy rush. They've gone through the proper and appropriate steps. I think that they hit the market first. Now, the U.S. doesn't like to be second. Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson Johnson have all been named as potential vaccine candidates that are looking prepped and ready to go. For the sake of never being second, I think that there's an opportunity there. Worst case scenario, the U.S. does have an agreement with AstraZeneca. So in the event that the European Medical Association does approve AstraZeneca for use, the U.S. will most likely swipe up their agreement with AstraZeneca and say, okay, well, you owe us this many million doses. We want them. And the FDA will put an emergency use authorization on it. Yeah, every country's got those. AstraZeneca's got deals with Japan, Australia, the Middle East. I did, but the U.S. also has one. I'm of a different opinion, but I'm also it also depends on what sector you're trading, right? It looks like right now the EV sector is going to continue to move up. The tech sector, we do have the Apple event coming up. So the iPhones can be announced. They're going to do quite well there. No, no, that won't happen. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, Purple. Now, first to market does not mean best for market. And guys, a vaccine is not a cure. Okay. So keep that in mind that next year, this strain of COVID could have a variation on it. And we're right back at it. So those companies that are still pre-IND or they're looking at phase 1 or phase 2, the reality is they are not out of the race entirely. They may be out of the race initially. As we head into next year, COVID is still going to be a reality. The vaccine that is in the market, we'll know exactly how it's working, but there are a lot of vaccines that are slower moving in the pipeline that have 90, 92, 95, 97% efficacy against decreasing viral load, which is significantly better than any of these drugs that are currently being tabled by AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, or Moderna. So the highest I've seen so far in any of their studies is 70%. Not phenomenal, not phenomenal. But it's better than nothing, essentially. Do I think Microsoft is a good investment right now? Microsoft into next gen consoles is looking good. They have the Jedi contract secured. It's a stable play. I don't know that it's a booming play. It's a stable play. They've stated pretty clearly that they're not looking to win the console war because they don't really care as much about consoles as they used to. What they're looking to do is cash in on their Game Pass option, where you'll be able to play cross-platform. They're definitely not going anywhere, but I don't know that they run nearly as much as Apple. Have you ever day traded? Occasionally I'll take a YOLO. I'll just throw something out there if I think that the news is going to move something on a day. But as a practice, no. As a practice, I'm a swing trader. Um, the reason why I say I'm a swing trader is trading on a 3, 6, 18-month schedule has been quite profitable for me. For me to grow a portfolio 1,200% in a year is pretty solid. Um, Yeah, no, there's no way that Teams is going to take over Zoom. I don't know if you've used Teams, but um, most people that I know in the executive space hate Teams. They are not a fan of it whatsoever. And Zoom's just easier. It's the household name. So for me, they're data centers, they're cloud servers, consoles to some extent, and the Jedi contract are a bigger piece of the puzzle for them than Zoom. Yeah, but that's Microsoft. If I was looking for a runner, I would take Apple over Microsoft, I think. Um, just at this point, if I'm looking to actually make some bank. Just to make some bank. Anyway, here this is, guys. You got a breakdown of total confirmed cases as well as deaths side by side. So, top 20 counties by number of deaths. There's been 6,600 deaths in Los Angeles, 273,000 confirmed cases. Um, in the argument of outbreak, I know that per capita loves to be used. However, per capita is irrelevant when it comes to total number of deaths, as the left likes to point out. I think Biden actually pointed that out in his last debate that for 4% of the global population, we're responsible for 25% of the deaths, while 25% of the deaths is being currently fueled by, um, and these are counties. So Los Angeles County, Miami-Dade is next in Florida. Yeah, right down there at the tip. Cook County is next. This is in Chicago. Harris County is next. It's Houston, Maricopa, Arizona, Dallas, Broward, Queens, Clark, and kings. So, what we're looking at, guys, here is a lot of the southern states. So, Los Angeles, Miami-Dade, not Cook. Cook is northern states. Harris, Maricopa, Dallas, Broward are all southern state, and then Queens and Kings is New York. Warmer climates, the, the virus is stronger in warmer climates. That makes sense. We expected to see that to some extent. As things get colder and colder and colder, we're going to see this taper off naturally. Surely status completely useless unless compared to population. No, no, no. It's not useless based off of per capita. You don't need a per capita to know that this is where the outbreaks are happening. Um, what you need to do is understand that by county, counties are designated by population sizes originally. But what we're looking at here is a total number. So we're trying to gauge where the largest amount of outbreaks are. Now, there could be, 30 million people in California as a whole, but the reality is in Los Angeles County, there are 273,000 cases. This is important to note because it gives us a centralized outbreak. We understand that this is the area where the highest amount of outbreak has happened. And so what we're not looking at is a political debate. What we're looking at is where are the sheer numbers breaking out. And the reality is that it's of no surprise that if you were to look at the big ones here. You've got this here. Now, what is of note is when you compare the total confirmed cases to the total confirmed deaths. So when you've got Los Angeles as number one and number one, Los Angeles not only has a larger bulk number of confirmed cases happening, but it also has a lead as far as the deaths go. Now, this is of the argument that um, the Republican states are to blame for all of this. The Republican states are the ones that are causing this problem to happen. Okay, but statistically, I need to actually take a look at where are the massive centers of outbreak and what are the confirmed death rates. So as far as this goes, Los Angeles is Democrat. Miami-Dade is they went Republican on the last election. Cook is Democrat. Harris is Democrat. Maricopa is Democrat. Dallas is Republican. Broward is that was Florida again, so Republican. Queens, Kings are both Democrat. Clark, where's Clark? Clark was Nevada, which I think is Republican, but it might be Democrat. But the majority of them are Democrat in Democrat-controlled states. As far as the desk goes, Los Angeles, Queens, Kings, Cook, Bronx, and then Maricopa, Miami-Dade, Wayne, Harris. But the top deaths are coming out of Los Angeles, Queens, Kings, Cook, and Bronx, Democrat populations. Now, the interesting thing with that is a lot of people are saying, well, Florida is surely being negligent. Uh, because we're talking about the total amount of lives affected. We're not talking about percentage of population affected. We're talking about total amount of lives affected. It's not a percentage game. It's the amount of people that are affected by this, right? Um, so I'm not looking to the how well they have done. I'm looking to the amount of people that have been affected by this and the narrative that's being put forth that the Republican states are doing a worse job of controlling the outbreak. When in reality, when you look at the sheer numbers of this, instead of devolving the argument back to per capita, the sheer size and magnitude of this is coming out of largely Democratic states, and we are also seeing that the majority of the deaths, the highest levels of deaths, are coming out of Democrat-run cities and counties. So it's important to remember, just as we're looking at the narrative of Republicans bad, it's all their fault. These cities, counties, and states are Democrat controlled. The beauty of the U.S. government is that the federal government, while it does have accountabilities and responsibilities, those states are also directly responsible under their governor and their mayors to make decisions for themselves. That's kind of the beauty of the United States, is that each state is self-represented and self-mandated. So it's kind of interesting to see. Now, for me, the biggest concern that I've got is, as we hear we are heading into a second wave coming out of New York, to already see that Queens, Kings, and Bronx are in the top death category. This is a huge concern for me, that we're going to see an additional outbreak happening in New York. Oh, where'd it go? Broke off to something else here. Let's go to, apparently you can go to Queens and get a full status report here, which is kind of cool. So let's do that. Let's head to Queens, because they're the big one for deaths. And okay, infographic details. Zoom in. Let me zoom in. Okay, so Queens, healthcare facts, population by age. As far as insurance goes, no insurance. The 35, what is this? Population 35 to 64, 19 over 64. So the populations of 19 to 64 are the largest for having no insurance whatsoever: Medicaid, Medicare, direct purchase, and employer insurance. The majority of people here seem to be on employer insurance, if they are going to be insured inside this range. As far as ethnicity goes, whites are predominantly the ones that are contracting the virus, almost 2-to-1 over the next minority. Hispanic, non-Hispanic. What is this ethnicity? Are they counting Hispanic as white? Really? Is that what they're doing? What the heck? Okay, so this is interesting here, guys. So we see a racial breakdown of these two are confusing me here. So we've got race, which I would have thought would have had Hispanic in it, unless they're just grouping that under Caucasian. Unless this is demonstrating that Queens is just a largely Hispanic neighborhood, in which case they're saying it's a perfect 50-50 split, Hispanic to non-Hispanic inside the Queens County. Age groups, it leans heavy into the 35 to 64 age range. Confirmed cases 72,000, deaths over 6,000. Number of cases in the last 14 days, we're seeing a steady increase in trend. High level of poverty, total population is 2.2 million. Age population is 340,000. The fatality rate is 8.36. How did they come up with this? Calculated as total deaths divided by the number of confirmed cases represented as a percentage. So 8% of the people, 1 in 8 people, no, 8 people out of 100 die of this. in Queens County? Which is what? 1 in 20? 1 in 20 people that contract this die of it in Queens County. That's a big number, given that second wave is coming. That's a big number. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Oh, okay. So let's go to the next one, which is King County. King County is the same, 1 in 20. Next one is Bronx in New York. Where is there? It is Bronx. Yeah, yeah. Total deaths. Yeah, deaths by cases by 100. So if you contract this in Queens County, 8% of the population, over 8% of the population is dying. So that's 8 out of 100 people, right? So for every 100 people that contract it, 8 people are going to die of it. When you boil that down, it's 1 in 20. 1 in 12. Uh, you're right. 100 by 8. 100, not 100 by 4. So uh, I mean, 1 in 12. That's even worse. Like it's that's even worse than 1 in 20. I was being generous. 1 in 20. Um, okay, so Bronx is a little bit lower. It's 7.5, right? Um, Bronx is a little bit lower, but between these three, you're looking at a fairly poor survival rate, all things considered. And this is not on Trump. This is not on the federal government. This is state and city management that have the ability to do or do not as they will on this. This falls on state governance, and they are screwing the pooch. And instead of focusing in on themselves, they're busy platforming for the Democratic Party heading into the election. This is scary numbers, guys. That's scary, 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 given that we are on a second outbreak. Now, this one is showing a decline over the last 14 days in the Bronx. Kings is on a massive increase. Queens is on a steady increase. But that's nuts. Look at that number. Yeah. And we're hearing that we are hearing that. It's like when we look at China's numbers, right? Everybody looks at China's numbers and just has a good little laugh. Um, so this is specific to the States. But if you head to World Tracker. Okay. So here is the daily new cases. It's plateaued, but it's not decreasing. Um, as far as daily deaths, we had a huge spike and then a decrease and a slight increase, and then we're decreasing it again. As far as your breakdowns of total cases, I this is the part that's just baffling to me, guys. So, uh, breakdown by population. Okay, Have they completely removed China from this graph? Is China no longer on here? Really? Tell me they completely removed China from this graph. No, okay, there it is. Oh, it's at the top. Okay. I was like, you have got to be joking. You're right. You're right. They're at the top. Oh man, I almost. Okay, so China is number one. Okay, this is the point of outbreak. We had no prep on this country. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew what was happening. We have massive centers of poverty. China's number one. Okay, they're first there. Highest population globally, 1.4 billion people, only 85,000 cases. Anybody? 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 Go ahead and type the number one in chat if you believe this. Now, let's by comparison take a look at, I don't know, the next closest population, India. Next closest population, India at 100 million, maybe 50 million less people, right? 50 million less people, 6.6 million cases of this thing. 6.6 million cases. Now, India themselves has said that this number is probably closer to half of the actual number because they have the inability to test so much of their population. There are just so many bloody people in India, and with them locking down travel, the majority of them cannot get to a testing center or a testing facility. So they are estimating that this is half of the actual cases in India. These are just the ones that we have confirmed testing for, right? Now, um, China is also claiming that they've put out 160 million tests. Maybe K means 100,000 and not 1,000 in China. Maybe we're lost in translation. But even at that, there would only be 100, well, 85 million, I guess. That um, this is not going to be true. And I think over the next few years, what we're going to find is massive graves of bodies that have been buried in China as a result of this. Deaths per million population, 3 in China. So they were either already ready for this disease to launch, or this is total BS. Take your conspiracy theory one way or the other on that. What is up, Micro? Yeah, so India's next here, guys. What is interesting and of note is test per population, guys. Okay. If you look at the US, sizably smaller country than China or India, right? Sizably smaller, 331 million people. But their test per million population, the US is blowing people out of the water, left, right, and center, testing like maniacs to make this happen, and presenting real statistics because they have somebody trying to hold Trump accountable to every single thing that's going on, right? So what we looked at before was where the outbreaks happening, where the majority of deaths happening. We see that that's largely leaning to Democrat states. So that claim that Trump makes, check, it's true. By and large, the majority of outbreak and deaths are coming from the Democrat states. Weeble. Ooh, I feel for you, man. Now, that being said, is the US doing a good job as far as doing everything that they can to work to make this better? Well, state to state, we can't really say that. We're not seeing that. We're seeing New York screw the pooch. We're seeing LA screw the pooch. So California screw the pooch. But the rest of the country seems to be doing all right. Dallas is having a bit of an outbreak as well. So Dallas has got some issues to figure out as well. They're not absolved of this. However, what we're looking at here is, as far as global testing and accuracy of data, the US is kicking butt. You'll see these smaller countries are doing quite well. UK is there. UK is doing quite well. But the U.S. is right on par with the U.K. as far as getting tests out there and testing people. Now, as far as deaths go, um, we're seeing a sizable amount of deaths here. But of the 214,000 deaths, what we saw was the majority of those, again, are coming from areas that are apparently doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, if you believe the hype and press, right? Government are sending tests to dead people, and all our tests count twice? What? All right. But as far as the statement of, well, the US has 4% of the global population is responsible for 25% of the cases. My issue with that statement is this. In the world, not one country has come anywhere near as close. Hey. Hello, little dude. You want to go to mommy? Hmm? Go to mommy? Germany? There they are there. 9,000 deaths, 300,000 cases on a 3 million population. Um, yeah, this is staggering to me. But as far as actually doing at the federal level, the federal job would be to supply um, mandates, restrict travel, and to do everything in your power to proceed into a vaccine as quickly as possible for the country. That's happening. As far as providing the outbreak centers with medical supplies as well as assistance, Trump moved medical ships all the way around to the other side of the country so that they could serve New York City. They provided all kinds of federal funding for hospital beds, and then was told to politely go fuck himself. Um, that was literally the response from Cuomo and De Blasio was screw you, this is all your fault. When in reality, what we're seeing is it's more their fault than anything else. The decisions that they have made the situation in New York City far worse. Um, Now, there's also starting to be a correlation between the places that are openly protesting and the level of outbreak. Um, so that's definitely another factor that we're seeing there. But um, yeah, as of right now, we'll see how that plays out. The places that are having these protests. Okay, so Sunday afternoon's our last update on this. Morning Elodix. So the current health update is that as of last night was that there's no fever since Friday, no shortness of breath today. Had a second dip in oxygen yesterday to 93%. Walking without limitation. He's had his second dose of remdesivir. He had a single dose of dexamethasone, and he's hoping for discharge tomorrow if all continues as is. So Meadows is the one causing a lot of confusion in this. Meadows is looking at a single incident where his oxygen levels dropped from 100% to 93%. When they asked why the film and footage that we had of Trump at Walter Reed did not show him wearing a mask, the doctor said, "We're not required to divulge that to you, and we're not going to divulge that to you. Whenever he's around the physicians, he's wearing a mask." It's like, okay. Um, Trump came out to wave at supporters from his car wearing a mask. I think Mark Meadows may find himself looking for a new job. Dexamethasone. Yeah, it's a steroid. Skin diseases, allergies, asthma, chronic lung disease, croup, brain swelling. Um, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but as a father of 8, croup is something that you deal with quite frequently. This is something that we can actually give to children. Um, Dexamethasone. I know we had one of our daughters that had a severe croup outbreak. Um, Why will he fire his chief of staff? Because, well, his physicians and Trump and everybody close to Trump are saying things look good. He's doing well. He's doing okay. Mark Meadows, who's the chief of staff, is out there giving interviews saying, "Oh, things are far worse than you would expect. Things are terrible. Things are awful." He's going counter narrative to what is actually being put out by the press secretary, is being put out by Trump himself, is being put out by the physicians. So when you go counter narrative like that, better believe that you are going to have some level of comeuppance. It's just going to happen, unfortunately. Um, if I were Meadows, I would be backpedaling pretty freaking fast right now. All right, that's Trump as a Monday. Cineworld, guys, to close Regal UK theaters after 007 delay. So James Bond has been pushed to April. With that, the theaters in the UK are essentially just giving up Christmas. That's exactly it. Mark Meadows should just, it's not his job. Mark Meadows should be silent as far as the press is concerned. But that's his decision. I hope Dune doesn't get pushed. I hope Wonder Woman doesn't get pushed. But 007 being pushed to April, the UK is just signing off. We're done with Christmas. We'll see you in the spring, guys. Um, Yes and no. I mean, is it a little stereotypical that the UK closes down their theaters because James Bond's not coming? Maybe. I don't know that superheroes are as big there, so Wonder Woman being the other major film. And Dune is kind of a coin toss right now. People aren't quite sure how that's going to land. Um, Wonder Woman and Dune are set for December release so far. I went to a theater last weekend. My daughter got tickets. So sometimes here, I don't know that they do this. I'm sure they do it all over the world, but sometimes here they'll show an older movie in theaters and you pay like a smaller ticket price, like $5 or something, instead of the 10 or 15 that it normally is. And one of the local theaters here was showing Empire Strikes Back, and it was her birthday. And she asked, Dad, do you want to go? And of course, when your teenage daughter says, Dad, do you want to go watch Empire Strikes Back in theaters? Your answer has to be yes, right? You're going to be a good dad like that. You're gonna take one for the team. You're gonna take the bullet, and you're just gonna go watch Empire Strikes Back in theater. And so I did, and I took her, and it was myself and my two oldest daughters, so my 16-year-old and my 14-year-old. Um, we went to the theaters. We got into the theater. I was excited to see how many people were going to be there. And we also took two of her friends. They came dressed up in Star Wars costumes. We had a blast. We get into the theater, and the entire theater is empty except for us. Absolutely empty. When you were picking out your seats, they are slotted in 6-foot increments. Um, yeah, that's always how they get you is on the food and the popcorn and drinks and whatever else. But we had the entire theater to ourselves. It was a private screening of Empire Strikes Back because we were willing to go. I went and talked to the manager afterwards and asked him, how are things going? How are things looking? And he says, well, I mean, right now it's completely dead. We only ever have one staff on other than a manager. So we have a manager for the money and we have a cashier, and that's it. That's all we need right now. There's no cleaning up in theaters because people are supposed to bring their garbage out. There's so few people in the theaters that we're running these movies essentially to empty sets. It's costing us more to keep the lights on than it is to run these. But right now, our directions are to continue operations, and it's like, all right, there it is, folks. Empty theaters around the block, and this is on new releases. This is on. I'm looking at some of the films that are there, and it's just like, these films are gonna bomb, no matter what. And it has nothing to do with the film. It has everything to do with the current status. Tyrant Cruise, thanks for the follow, man. Much appreciated. It is 6:30, guys. I am going to go top up my water. Be right back. If you guys have any tickers you want me to take a look at before we take our break here. I do come back live for the market, but I do stop at 7 a.m. to get my, kind of household in order, have coffee with my wife, and then come back to hang out with you guys for the market open. So if you guys have stocks that you want me to take a look at pre-market, give me my thoughts and insights on, I'm happy to do that. I'm just going to go get some more water, and I will be right back. Downstairs. All right. Huge shout again to Restream, guys. It lets me talk to everybody here on YouTube, on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all at the same time. Huge fan of it. What they do. I was a fan of it before they sponsored the stream. Now that they are sponsoring this stream, more of a huge fan. VR, I'd be down with that. I do a VR thing. I still like going to the theater, guys, and I refuse to stop living because of this thing. I really do. I I'm not gonna stop living my life because of this thing. I'm not. I don't think that's a bad idea. I don't think that's a bad idea, man. Um, or some kind of perk for season ticket holders. Hot mic or helmet cams, so you can actually watch your favorite players from their point of view. POV cams on each of the players. Yeah, I think stocks like Uber Eats, Grubhub are going to continue to get the hype. I think Uber is going to be, or Waiter's going to be super profitable. Made a decent chunk of change on Waiter earlier in the year. I think that I'm probably going to make a decent chunk of change on my current position with them. Let's take a look at the pre-market here. Oh, you used to work for Waiter. Very cool. My entry was 172 and I got out around 340. Yeah, it would definitely depend on your market. They definitely serve more of the southern states than they do the major population centers. So, yeah, there have been rumors about buyouts for a while now. I think if their next earnings comes in profitable as well, you could expect to see that buyout offer. The thing is, though, I don't know. So they've got a billionaire owner. I don't know if she's actually looking to exit the business, which is the key part of the buyout, right? Is that you're looking for that. Um, okay. I wanted to show you guys this earlier just so I could be completely transparent. I do provide you my current moves on TipRanks, but as far as the actual holdings and dollar value of my account, I did start this portfolio at the start of the year with 3,000 Canadian, which is about 2,200 US. Currently, I am up to a market value of about 27,500. So over a 1,200% increase so far year to date. Here are the current holdings that I have. I do have 2 grand in Waiter. I do have 8,000 in, well, 7,000 in Space, 2,000 in Waiter, 3 grand in Side Eye, almost 12 grand in ACRX. IPEX is an outlier at $1,000. LPL about 2,200 in there, and ETM about 3 grand in there. So right now it's kind of what we're looking at. My total book cost is about 30 grand. I've got about 27 grand in there. So I am no longer in WPRT. I did exit. I do think there's a little bit of time for me to take that money, move it into something else, and then make a profit. I did exit WPRT on a profit, but I wanted to have as much capital as possible in Space headed into this launch on the 22nd. So LPL is my Apple play. Yeah, LPL is LG Display, guys. They make the screens for iPhones, iPads, and iWatches. I am still bullish on WPRT. I just think that the timing is different. What do you think about IDEX in 2021? So I know that there was another one that was put out too. So I want to look at both of these. So SUNW, guys, was first. So I'll just take a look at that real quick. Um, SUNW is Sunworks. This is a photovoltaic photovoltaic based power system, so solar power systems at a commercial level. Yeah, there's money in this, especially if Biden wins. If Biden wins, this is a huge play. SUNW. I really, really, really like it on that. Now, are they profitable? Missed on revenue, missed on EPS, missed by $2 million. They were down 48% sales. Yikes! So they are not profitable. Um, they're getting compliance on Wednesday. SUNW or IDEX? Oh, and there's a buyout offer. Okay. I mean, compliance is a big deal. That's investor confidence for sure. Um, it's not in a sector I play. I'm gonna be honest, I don't play that solar just because I am fairly positive that Trump is gonna win the next election. Now, if that looks like the tides change and Biden does get it the next day, I will definitely be taking a look at some solar stocks, some EV stocks, and some pot stocks. Um, so they look to incentivize fleet purchases of EV. Um, yeah, so with IDEX guys, um, Hindenburg is on it. I'm not going to go near it. Yeah. With IDEX, if Hindenburg is on something, I've been around and traded enough stocks with Hindenburg. When I see Hindenburg or I see Muddy Waters on something, I don't go near it. Everybody's got to have their own trading rules, and a lot of people say, well, they don't know everything. That's true, but Hindenburg and Muddy Waters have a very solid track record. Nikola, Wirecard, uh, China hustles aplenty that Muddy Waters has called out and caught over the years. Um, Wolfpack would be another one. Wolfpack Research would be another one that I'd take a look at. Um, I wouldn't take a look at if they were on it. When these short firms are on these guys, it's for good reason. So IDEX would be one that I stay away from. I wouldn't play it. Okay, pipeline funds offer cheap way to play the energy rebound, says Baron. So Turtis, Clearbridge. So this was back in May. So they're saying that this bus deal funding should be secured by the end of Q3, and if it isn't, IDEX is boned. Even at that, guys, this is a conversion of buses over a 5 year period. So you take that 140 million divided by 5 years, right? Three, three, two more. Divided by 5 years. Then you take that and divide that by 4. So it works out to about 7 million in sales a quarter uh, on this deal. Their last, let's go back to IDEX's earnings here. Okay, so that would double their revenue per quarter if it goes through. Yeah, I don't see that happening. The Chinese government is never going to give a U.S. company control of their infrastructure. It won't happen. And if it does happen, the Chinese government will let them build it, and then they'll seize it and give it to a Chinese firm to manage, and IDEX will be boned. I can understand why Hindenburg would be on this. Alas, China can do that. Um, if you try to build a solar infrastructure in China, China will just take it. Or they won't let you build it and they'll just have a Chinese company build it. Or they'll let Tesla build it and then take it from Tesla. Um, any of those. American Airlines, guys, it spiked up on Pelosi thinking that the stimulus is going to go through. When the news drops that the stimulus is not going through, expect airlines to come back down and be able to buy again. How are cruise lines doing, by the way? I know that that was something that I built out. Casinos, travel, tourism. I think I put it under. If CCL could come back down to that $10 range, that would be amazing. Do I think the CCP will actually take the Tesla plant? It depends on what they want. For me, I think the CCP has a greater interest in keeping Tesla there, so that they can essentially hack Tesla, so that they can take the information that they can get out of Tesla. Yeah, Pelosi said just wait till Monday. I I cannot for the life of me see this happen. That's exactly it. No. So for the stimulus to pass, guys, the House cannot pass stimulus alone. The House can floor a bill, vote. If the House passes it on partisan lines, which they will, it will go to the Senate. The Senate has made it pointedly clear that they do not see the need for an additional stimulus upwards of $1 billion or $1 trillion. They are willing to put out a $1 trillion stimulus package. Pelosi's not willing to budge, and she's saying, "Well, I came down from a original 3.5 trillion to only a meager 2.2 trillion. That's still $1 trillion too much." You misunderstand. There is a Republican Senate and a Republican Oval Office. Elon's aware. He doesn't care. Elon puts all of his specs out publicly anyway. Here's how we make our cars. If you can make them better, great, go ahead. Elon's vision is to build a infrastructure, and he's done that in the US. He has a solar infrastructure. Guys, he Tesla is an energy company, and I know Martini and I have we say this until we are blue in the face, but look, Tesla charging stations. Elon Musk has built himself a national infrastructure. He's okay with that. The reason why I say he's okay if they know is because he feels that he can out innovate. If CCP comes out with a better car, he'll improve his and it'll be better. He owns the infrastructure. This is what's important is the infrastructure. This will be the backbone of Tesla's finances for years and years and years to come. What happened with the ALNA play? I haven't taken the play yet, just because I wanted to put money elsewhere. I think ALNA has been doing well over the last little bit, though. I mean, they got a little bit of a pump on funding, but ALNA is a long, long play out. CCP has more funds than Elon. That's true, they do. What do they make it cheaper? they can go ahead. Um, Elon's next play, and he's already focusing there, is Starlink. And Starlink is going to be a big deal. When you can provide global internet for a fraction of the cost at high speed, like 5G for $20 a month anywhere in the world, that's kind of a big deal. And that's outside the control of the Chinese government. It's outside the CCP. Now, whether China allows people to use that internet, that's up to China. But again, yeah, Dill, it will probably make your property tax go up, but it'll also definitely increase your property value. Um, Google had thrown out a spitball idea, but they're not even making progress towards it. Tesla's already got satellites up in the air. Um, yeah, Tesla's a bigger thing. Tesla's happy to do work in China just to say that they're in China. Um, but the reality is, like, Tesla's in Europe. Tesla owns North America. Um, if the CCP seizes Tesla, what it will do though is it will drive U.S. dollars that are currently invested in Chinese investments out of the country because it will confirm the suspicion that the Chinese government will just seize American assets even when it chooses to do so. Uh, it would cause a mass exodus of American funds if a major firm like Tesla can be taken like that. Smaller companies, it happens all the time, but a smaller company can't really raise the same level of stink as Tesla can. If the CCP swoops in and takes Tesla's assets, they just seize them because they can. Expect there to be a blowout on this side of the country where China hustle companies would be ousted from the country. Expect it to result in um, a lot of US dollars flooding back into the US market because they're not confident about the security of their investments in China. It would be hugely detrimental to the Chinese economy, and it would be massively beneficial to the US economy. Um, so again, Elon knows this. Elon's a smarter guy than I am. He's put all the pieces together. They're damned if they do, and they're damned if they don't. If they try to block Tesla from going into China, they can't make the claim of the free market. Um, Did you ever look at Gilead? Yeah, we did. We looked at Gilead earlier. We were talking about Trump's health at the 30-minute mark. So if you guys are watching the replay on this, you can go back and check that out over on YouTube. The video will be live within minutes of me shutting this down. So you can head over to my YouTube channel, um, catch the replay, and I will put all the episode timestamps on there for you guys to get at. Just going to check and see if we have any other news that's pertinent this morning. Medical cannabis is a nothing. Not seeing a ton of new news here that's really blowing my mind. It's a big acquisition by Bristol Myers. Neat will run today. Payment accept payment acceptance and processing. Is there news of a potential buyout? That's the only way that I could see that this is going to run. What do we have pre-market? Top pre-market gainers. This is looking dismal. CMPS. Yeah. Medical mushrooms, medical pot. It's a small percentage of the population. It's not a ton of money. It's not. It's not profitable. Until the class one regulation against pot is gone, there's not the kind of money that we're looking for on it. As far as other LSD mushrooms as being post traumatic stress, even if it's approved, there's not a lot of money in medical. It's just not there. Because let's be honest, if you are using mushrooms or acid to treat your anxiety disorders, you have a dealer, and you've always had a dealer, and you will continue to use a dealer, which is what we saw up here in Canada when marijuana legalized federally at the national level. The government expected all this money to flow in, and it just didn't. People didn't leave their dealers though. For depression, yeah, that's what I mean. Anxiety disorders, depression, post-traumatic stress. I take CBD, so I take clinical CBD, so high potency pot for my PTSD. It's an industry that I know very well. There's not a lot of money in. There's not. So if you want an example of this, go to OGI. OGI, guys, is Organogram. They do not sell recreational pot. They sell only medicinal pot in Canada. Um, um, if we are moving to a cashless society, I think Neat is less likely to run than PayPal. I think PayPal gets the run. Tools like Square and PayPal are more likely to see the pump. Win 2262. Thank you so much for the follow, man. Appreciate that so much. It's 6:50, guys. I hear all of the kids in the background. They are up there running. I need to get on that and get helping with that. Thank you so much for the amazing pre-market session. I am here every day, 4:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, all the way to 7 a.m. Do you use it daily normally? Yeah, I use it every night before I go to sleep. And then if I have episodes, which as we head into the Christmas season, Thanksgiving, uh, I tend to use it a little bit more often. I do the stream every morning at 4:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then I'm going to come back. I have decided to adopt a 2 stream a day system, so guys. I will be back at around 9:30. So I will catch you later. If you're not following, subscribed, all that fun jazz, do that so you know when I go live. Otherwise, though, have an amazing day, and the video will be on YouTube momentarily for you guys to check out. So take it